Hey, JulesBlessedVegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So I've been doing 7 days of Abraham Lincoln quotes, and I saved a very interesting one for last. This is day 7, and it reads, "The best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time." You know, people want things yesterday, but they really don't know what they're asking, really. They just really don't. God is so merciful that he makes us work our way up. I think about when a child is being developed in the womb, right? And how they're essentially this egg and their tiny little limbs start from there out, right? And every part of the body starts from this nucleus out. And, you know, your hand is first and it extends when the arm comes along, right? You don't just suddenly have arms and then wait for your hands to grow. Like, it's all very loving and generous and has an order to it, much like the universe. And, you know, we often want things right away. What I've seen is when people win the lottery, they're so stoked. I mean, come on, it's a dream come true. The number of bankruptcies, the number of people who have gotten divorces over that, the number of suicides from what people thought would be such a tremendous gift, because it happened overnight. They were ill prepared. They had no idea how many vast changes would occur exponentially as a result of that one decision. And it's actually very merciful and gracious that the best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time. It's really beautiful when you've actually had a chance to set a foundation and work your way to something. Seriously, it's really so merciful. Does that make sense to you? Can you agree with that at all? I just know it's one of those things, be careful what you pray for. Because honestly, when people are granted something, sometimes they are so incredibly overwhelmed. They don't even know what to do. They don't know what to do with it at all, you know? I'll have to think about that a little bit more. I really will. I definitely know that there's such a terrific reward in working your way to something and knowing that you could do it. Let me talk about something that's so funny. Okay, so a couple days ago, I had that video, right, where I put 2 pictures of myself, and one was from 3 years earlier. And that image just happened to pop up on Facebook. You know how they do that? And so I was like, well, that's interesting. It's hard for me to see how much I've changed, but let me go ahead and take a picture, and I'll put them side by side and you know, and just share, yay me, it's been 3 years. Okay. So I was thinking of the grace in not suddenly being where I am right now, in having to earn every less bite, and having to earn every less pound, and having to earn every new muscle, because it's been such an incredible process, really, and I'm not even done yet, I'm sure, but I know where I've been. I know what it took, you know, to make those better choices. I've become so educated on plant-based and certainly vegan and even raw vegan. Like, there's been so much information and so many things that if someone just handed it to me, I wouldn't have known what to do with any of it, and I never would have been anywhere near as successful as I am at this point. And even though it's taken a long time to get, you know, down 135 pounds. It took a long time, of course, to get there. I understand that. But I understand, for me, I have to let weight go in its own time. So I've been struggling at the 200-pound mark. I've lost and gained 15 pounds, you know, just about to break into the 180s, you know, 6 or 7 times, you know, in the last year or so. And I need to let that be okay, because it suggests to me that there's certain lessons that I'm just not ready for yet. But by the time I am, it's usually definite, and it's really steadfast, and it lasts. And before, yeah, sure, I could starve myself. I could lose weight all the time. But inevitably, I did put it back on, and even more. And I cannot allow that to be the case again. So the beautiful thing about this part of my future, and looking 3 years back and even looking 15 years back, is that it did come one day at a time. You know, it wasn't a rush job. I remember a certain individual in my life who was walking 20 miles a day. They were doing that thing where people just chew and then spit out whatever it is. So they were getting very few calories. They dropped 100 pounds in 4 or 5 months. It was not lovely. They had skin hanging, they had loose muscles, their face looked amazing. But their body was nowhere near ready, because the body was in as much shock as anyone seeing this person and going, wait a minute, what? Who are you? And so it was interesting when I put those pictures. I got a ton of feedback because I put them on a couple of different sites that support me. But it reminded me of how people, whatever their perception is, it's filtered through their own nonsense first, right? So a couple of people were like, well, I liked your heavy picture better. Like, you were way prettier. And I thought, okay, thank you. It's more about health. Somebody else said, well, I hope I never lose weight like that, because I want my face all wrinkled and hanging the way that yours is. I guess they decided these lines were like hanging because you look way older now. Okay. Somebody else, so I looked older. They'd never want to look at me because of hanging skin. I looked way better than the other one. Oh, and another person just flat out said, don't lose any more weight. Just don't. And then there was a whole debate on another page where people were saying, she looks like a freaking skeleton now. And people always go overboard when they go plant-based. I mean, look at her. I laughed my butt off. I had to write and say, wow, you're very kind. I'm still in the 190s. But thank you so much that I look like a freaking skeleton. Can't imagine what I'm going to look like when I'm down to regular weight. But yeah, people are so uncomfortable. I know for me, the best thing about the future is that it comes one day at a time, because I know I panic when there's too much change too quickly. And so to be losing this weight as long as it's taking, a little bit at a time, is going to give me my best chance of actually keeping it off. And it may incidentally allow people around me who do have head trips and are freaked out about people who are regular weight to not maybe notice such a drastic change, so that by the time it comes about, they'll be like, what? She looks like she always does. Like, maybe they just won't notice, but for a side-by-side picture like I had just done. So I certainly welcome that. You know, I remember I'd lost weight a couple years ago, and I did it really quietly. I didn't mention it. I'd pretend that I had just eaten. I indicated that I didn't feel like having a snack. I pretended to have a snack and threw it away. And again, it was the same thing. I mean, it was well over 200 and something pounds, and just kind of working my way down to 200. And my husband, whom I love so much because he just doesn't notice. He doesn't notice when it's good. He doesn't notice when it's bad. He doesn't notice when I'm fat. He doesn't notice when I'm thin. He just doesn't notice. But I remember at that time, one day, he just looked at me and he said, I am so sorry. And I was like, for what? And he said, I'm so sorry. I did not notice that you had gotten thin. And I was like, wait, what? And you know, I'd lost like 75 pounds. He never said a word, and he never noticed. And it was only in that moment when we'd gone to a restaurant we hadn't been to in years, and the person said, you lost weight. Well, they went crazy. And then he looked at me like, wait, you've lost weight? That's exactly what I'm praying for this time, because I would love it if people in my realm, because it took time, didn't notice. And so it's a non-issue. I look forward to that, because I'm telling you, these conversations get very ugly when I dare to suggest that I just want to get to the weight that God planned for me, and that humans aren't designed to be padded or fat. And then people just freak out and, well, you're already like a 13, 14. You don't need to lose more weight, and don't you? And I'm like, you know what? This is a non-conversation. I'm still wearing my weight. There's nothing to be said. Well, I know, but you better not be thinking, because you have an obsessive mind and you've had eating disorders before. This is a disordered eating. And I'm like, I do everything I can to end that conversation. But you're my JBV community, right? So I just wanted to talk to you. And of course, this brought that up for me. But yes, whatever's in my inbox, whatever's coming, I am grateful that it comes one day at a time, because more information than that is too much information often. All right, my friends, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you in prayer, in food, in one day at a timing. And best of all, and I couldn't believe I didn't have this in yesterday's video, were any of you going, wait, she forgot to say, know that you're blessed. I did. Oh my gosh, I was so busy with God willing and the creek don't rise that I forgot to say, know that you're blessed. But here we are, and we most certainly are.